Hi everyone, it's Wells Only with a special little rant video, kind of, sort of, rant and slash educational. So this is just really in relation to all of the hubbub around the current legislation that is trying to be basically snuck through the finish line in the U.S. with respect to crypto, but it's all tucked into something called the infrastructure bill. And this is just merely to, I guess, explain my point of view with respect to crypto, what it is, what it's supposed to be, and where it should go. Because after I run through some simple facts and figures with you guys, you're gonna basically see that you're being lied to, you're being played. And you know me, I love that, right? I love being played. So first things first is understanding exactly what the hell is going on. And it's very simple. There is this term called Hegelian dialectic. And it's just a problem, reaction, solution method. Um, they give you the problem, they already have the solution, and it merely pigeonholes you into, let's see, this is probably not the best source to give you the definition. Let's see if we pull something up that's decent here. An interpretive method originally used to relate specific entities and prevent ideas. The mutual contradiction being reconciling a high level of truth by a third proposition. There you go. While that's not really a succinct definition, I feel like it's kind of wordy. Um, and the reason I feel it's kind of wordy is because it's saying a whole lot to say a whole little. An interpretive method originally used to relate specific entities or events to the absolute idea, in which the assertable proposition, in this case, the fact that you need crypto legislation, or at least that's the proposition, is necessarily opposed by an equally assertable and apparently contradictory proposition, and that's the people trying to now come in and say, no, 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 this is what's passable as crypto legislation. But in the whole time, the reality is that the mutual contradiction being reconciled on a high level of truth by a third proposition being the synthesis. What this means is that they already have the solution that they're going to give you. You calling them isn't doing anything, actually. You're just wasting your time and letting them know that you're interested in what they have to offer. But in reality, they're irrelevant. Because if you're dealing in crypto, you don't need them. Because what's happening is that they're literally breaching constitutional rights, basic human rights, in fact, and we are allowing them to do so. That's the issue that we're having here. Now, what the hell do I mean? Well, let's take it back to basics. What in the hell is a crypto? Cryptocurrency is a purely peer to peer version of electronic cash. That's it. If it does anything else, there's any other nexus to this equation, then it is not crypto. Now, I've gone through this before, but let me do it again because people are forgetting. Don't get swept up in the bullshit. If you are dealing in crypto, the only thing you have to realize is the following. There is this thing called the US Constitution. Within the US Constitution, there are certain things that are detailed, right? This is basically the framework of how this country is supposed to work, operate, function. Now, it's well understood that most people don't have a fucking clue if this even exists. But we'll go into it in very, very small detail just to highlight how you're being played, because this document is never respected by any of these people that you're calling for help and assistance, because they're not there to help and assist you. Now, let me show you exactly what I mean, since you want to believe the lies. Well, here are the very most basic rules that we have to live by, aka the laws of the land. And here's something interesting that most people don't know. The first 10 amendments are called Bill of Human Rights. Bill of Rights, your Bill of Rights. Now, they were written, now I'm not trying to get into historical facet of the Bill of Rights here, but the Bill of Rights were written as an international document. Okay? Now, what does that mean? It's really an intergalactic document, is how it was written, but neither here nor there. What I mean is that this document was written so that it is applicable to every being on the planet. Now, we know the nature of the time, so we don't need to get into the semantics of if that's really applicable or not. But you will have persons that will relate that error to the reality of what is written on the document in text. But again, they like to use time, and let's use time. Let's take this time to read exactly what these first basic 10 rights are and how they're just not being respected, and how you're being played into thinking that they are by participating in this ruse. Because it's this simple. If you opt to not play in the system, then you simply don't. And that's it. But if you continue to abide, you continue to play, you continue to act like everything is okay, what you're going to get is a continual rush of pain. Why do you think that there's always some crisis to tend to in this country, or in any country for that matter? It is not a coincidence. It is by design. Simple, straightforward. Nothing there should be misconstrued. If you've been alive as long as me, let me know. I've been around since the mid 80s. Let me know when there hasn't been a crisis. There's been one nonstop for the last 20 years. Understand what's going on. Okay? Bill of Rights, First Amendment, religion, speech, press, assembly, petition. Do these rights really exist nowadays? Congress shall make no law. Congress, not the CDC, not some third fucking party, not some lame old governor in your state, not some random PM, right? Not some random schmuck. A group of people that were supposedly elected shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, which we no longer clearly have, or of the press, which never has existed really. I mean, so that's just funny. Or the right of the people peacefully to us, to the people to, excuse me, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody knows by now that this is pretty much a joke in this day and age. You can't petition the government for pretty much anything unless you have deep pockets in order to do so, because it's going to cost you. It's not free. The right of the people peaceably to assemble. Well, as we all know nowadays, you can only peaceably assemble if you're allowed to, if you get a permit to in certain areas. Um, in the Obama era, it was made illegal to protest on federal land. Most people don't even know that. So, unconstitutional, right in your face. Everybody's favorite Nobel Prize winning president. So these are the things that people have to be aware of that they're not. You're lied to every day, and it's fun for them, and you let them enjoy it because you buy into the bullshit. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. This is the key term here that everybody overlooks. We do not live in a free state. That cannot be debated. We are regulated by a federal entity, meaning an entity that oversees east to west coast, north to south. How are you free? You're not. And it's because we gave up our right, our Second Amendment right. We gave that up long ago. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And this is the piece they keep trying to trample on every day, all day. Notice how during the Obama era, and even during the Clinton era, if I remember correctly, and even during the Bush era, there's a shit ton of shootings, mass shootings, shit ton, and the most happened during the Obama era. Now, note, during that same era, they kept trying to push a weapons ban legislation in the U.S. that was coming from the UN, from the UN, from the UN, and they couldn't push it through. So there's a lot of things that happen that you're probably not aware of that you should be and you should make the time for, because that's actually more important than anything else you have going on, because this is why we're at the precipice, the point of no return. You have military stationed everywhere. Military lets you know you no longer live in a free state. You no longer live in a free state. That's what military means, that, by the way. Now, people will try to debate that, but that's because they don't understand the historical significance of a militia and how this country was formed. This country was formed in a decentralized fashion. It was not formed by, yeah, here's the federal government, here's the army, here's this, here's that. And that's not how it happened. No, it's not how it works. Sorry, you were lied to if that's how you think it works, or you were told that's how it works. It's not how it works. Third Amendment, quartering of troops. Now, this is just basically stating that nobody can come and put a person that's a member of the military, if you want to call it that, respectively, because that's just the easiest term to use, because people won't understand militia, to basically take place or take residence in your locale, right? In your residence, in your place of business, or wherever you live, without your consent, nor in time of war, nor to be prescribed by anybody supposedly in charge during war. That's what this means. So that one isn't as important because, you know, we still kind of got that one in the bag. But this one, however, is important because this is the one that everybody needs to be aware of. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, this is my favorite because it says a whole lot in a whole little. The right of the people to be secure. If you do not have that right at all, think about it. Every facet of your life is invaded by government. Your existence, you have a social security number, you have an ID, where you live, you pay taxes on that, you pay rent if you don't own it, or have a mortgage on it, or have your name on it. your papers. Now, what does this mean? Effects. What does that mean? Basically, anything that is yours is supposed to be protected by this amendment. Right? Anything that is yours is not meant to just be prodded and probed just because some fucker with a title feels like it. That's what this means. Shall not be violated. And this compounds it even further, which we just completely ignore. We just completely ignore this. We use bank accounts where they're tied in to centralized entities that can just shut us off at any point in time. We use all these things that just lead up to a flip of the switch. All these things that invade our privacy. All these things that we opt to give up our Fourth Amendment right to use. Why? Why do we do that? And then complain about it and then think the same people making those laws or those rules or those policies, whatever you want to call them, are going to be the people to save you. They're not. Hate to disappoint you. Fifth Amendment. Now, this one is pretty technically legal. It's basically pleading the fifth, right? Don't snitch on yourself. I mean, that's pretty dumb. Don't snitch on yourself, right? People do it though. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Now, I'm not going to talk about this one because this is where things get a little racial. But I think you guys know what I mean on that one. We'll keep it moving. Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law, where the value and controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the U.S. than according to the rules of common law. So this is very jurisdictional, right? That's what the term here means. And this is just basically saying you're entitled to equitable treatment in this scenario. So if you're involved with something where it's worth more than 20, you have a legal claim. So you just better be able to afford it. That's all that's saying. Yes. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Hey, in the U.S. of A., you break the law every day. You don't even know it. So this one's kind of been obliterated ad nauseum. If you live in any city, this alone lets you know. If you live in any city, you already know this is not respected at all, especially New York, LA, Chicago, right? Wherever there's a big influx of violence. This, eh, you know how that goes, right? If you got it, they're not charging you for it. And if you do, you know damn well you're never getting out of jail, so it doesn't matter. Here we go. What we got here? The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This is an interesting one, right? Because it's basically saying that it's on you, right? It's on you. That's really all it's saying. Like, let's read this little blurb right here because it does go into some nice little detail. Um, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others. Right? So at the time, people didn't think that this document was necessary. Right? Um, but as we all know, things in writing are always necessary because otherwise people will just act like they'll forget. And that's why they say the pen is mightier than the sword, I guess. Um, let's see. Da, da, da. Framers constantly believe that there are additional fundamental rights protected from governmental infringement, which exists alongside those fundamental rights specifically mentioned in the first 8 constitutional amendments. To hold that right so basic and fundamental and so deep rooted in our society as the right of privacy in marriage may be infringed because that right is not guaranteed in so many words by the first 8 amendments to the Constitution is to ignore the ninth and to give it no effect whatsoever. So, as I just stated, the ninth means it's on you. If you're ignorant to the laws of the land and how things are meant to work here, then you get legislation that tells you who you can marry and who you cannot. So that legislation is also unconstitutional, as dictated, I mean, it's just clearly outlined here. It's not required. And it's letting you know that your rights are being infringed upon because that's the government letting you know what you can and can't do. Stop living in a world that doesn't exist. Stop giving them what they want. The less you know, the more they take. Educate yourself. That's what this is all about. You're out here asking for help when you don't need it. You're giving them rope to hang you with. Now, let me read this again. The language and history of the Ninth Amendment reveal that the framers of the Constitution believe that there are additional fundamental rights protected from governmental infringement. The point of this document, the Constitution, was to ensure that the people knew their rights so that they wouldn't have a bunch of fuckfaces telling them what to do. Serious. That was the whole point of this document. That's why the Federalists, right? The Federalists, what is the highest level of the land? Federal level. Not a coincidence, folks. It's all in your face. You choose to see it or you don't. Now, back to this, which exists alongside those fundamental rights specifically mentioned in the first 8 constitutional amendments. To hold that right so basic and fundamental and so deep rooted in our society as a right of privacy in marriage may be infringed because that right is not guaranteed in so many words by the first 8 amendments to the Constitution. Is to ignore the Ninth Amendment and give it no effect whatsoever. Interestingly enough, the 10th, which is my favorite, rolls right up into this one in a big way. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states or to the people. Now, to me, this one is straightforward, right? This is saying it's on you, right? This is basically what it's saying, straight up, no confusion. And they put it in here twice. The 9th and the 10th basically say it is on you. This is why we have a failed state. This is why we're living the current world we're living in because people were lulled to sleep into thinking that centralized entities are there to assist. After what I've just outlined, I hope you are now realizing that you've been lied to, duped, and played in so many ways. To Sunday, it's not even funny because this is the most basic law of the land. Nothing supersedes any of these laws. Yet we allow them to tell us and dictate to us what is and what isn't based on what they want, not on reality. We let them create our reality. And until we educate ourselves and take back our minds, we will not have the reality that we want. Begging them for anything is the wrong action at all times because they don't have anything for you. All they're going to do is give you more rope to hang yourself with, as I just outlined in the first basic 10 constitutional amendments that we have here, the Bill of Rights. Now, again, it's important to understand that these items were created on a universal basis. They just happen to be written in this land, the United States, because this is where freedom was at the time relative to everywhere else. And this is why the US is so important in this current ongoing psychological war, because that's what we're fighting here, a psychological war. Now, this isn't to be political, this isn't to be anything but factual. Look at what's happening and look at what is supposed to be happening. None of this is supposed to be happening. None of it. I'll put this link in the description. The reason I use this site, law.cornell.edu, is because they're one of the oldest and most reputable sources of information. Right, all of their information ties back to the immediate source of where it comes from, which is the documentation itself. And this is why I like to use this. And this all this stuff can be verified, basically. So definitely go on this site. I'm not gonna run through all that in here right now, but run through the site if you've never been on it. Familiarize yourself with the laws of your land if you live in the U.S. And if you don't live in the U.S. and you're interested in knowing what your basic human rights are, read the first 10 amendments. You'll realize what's going on. This is very important. Bill of Rights are very important. So you have the U.S. Constitution, and then your Bill of Rights, not your Bill of Constitutional Rights, Bill of Human Rights, Bill of Rights. But they really are your Bill of Human Rights because you're a human, and they were designed to let you know what your basic human rights are because they had to be written down because otherwise you just got some clown telling you what the fuck is good and what's bad. And we all know that doesn't work. Whales out, guys. Thank you for watching this unique recording. Whales out. Bye.